Under the blinding lights of the Washington showdown, the audience didn't murmur. They roared. Half of them in MAGA red, fists clenched and signs raised. The other half, draped in progressive slogans and justice hashtags, clapped with smirks that dared the opposition to speak. No one came to be convinced. They came for blood. From stage left, Caroline Levit entered. At just 27, the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history walked like she'd been running press rooms since Nixon. Pastel, pink blazer, red heels, a cross glinting at her neck. Her posture screamed precision, discipline, and danger. She wasn't there to explain the Trump administration. She was there to fight for it. From stage right came Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, older, seasoned, unapologetically fierce. Her curls framed a face that had weathered public battles. She was ready to scorch the earth. Host Morgan Reynolds, a seasoned voice of the center left, sat between them, visibly nervous. "Tonight," she began, "you're not just watching a debate. You're watching a collision of America's two dominant forces, MAGA revivalism and progressive resistance. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Press Secretary Caroline Levit, ladies, let's begin." Before the first question dropped, Crockett leaned forward, her voice lined with sarcasm. "Miss Levit, you're young, I'll give you that. A mother too, I hear. How do you square that with defending a man whose policies increase child poverty, slash public education, and raise grocery prices with tariffs?" The audience gasped. Cheers clashed with boos. Levit didn't flinch. She smiled like she had been waiting for this moment. "You're right, I'm young. I'm also not jaded by the lies Washington sells as compassion. Trump's tariffs protect our industries. Our food prices went up because of global disruptions, not leadership. My job is to defend truth, not your favorite slogans." Crockett didn't wait. "Truth? Is that what you call retweeting propaganda and turning press briefings into political theater?" "Oh, I don't retweet propaganda," Levit replied, eyes narrowed. "I dismantle yours. You call it theater. America calls it finally having someone at the podium who speaks like they care, not just read polls." The studio shook. People were now on their feet. Host Reynolds raised her voice but lost control quickly. Crockett's smile evaporated. "You're a mouthpiece, Miss Levit, a TikTok version of propaganda. Your president lied about infrastructure, tax fairness, the border, and now you're here to clean it all up with press-ready punchlines?" "No," Levit replied coldly. "I'm here because every steelworker in Ohio, every farmer in Iowa, and every mother in Detroit knows we fought for them, while you were in Congress tweeting performative outrage from your leather chairs." Crockett leaned forward, voice like a blade. "And yet 200,000 agricultural jobs vanished under Trump, per the USDA. That's not winning, that's wreckage." Levit's reply came without pause. "Jobs vanished because of your party's decades-long surrender to China. We're rebuilding what your policies destroyed. You talk jobs, I talk livelihoods. That's the difference between tweeting and doing." The MAGA crowd exploded. Chants of "Levit, Levit," echoed like a drumbeat. Reynolds, voice now strained, "Ladies, let's take a question." But Crockett cut her off. "You say you fight for Americans, but what do you even know about struggle? You're a polished staffer made in Trump's image. I've fought on the ground, in courtrooms, in communities. What have you done besides polish disaster?" Levit's voice dropped, lower, calmer, but lethal. "I've walked into homes where families feared losing their farms. I've spoken with parents praying their factories wouldn't shut down. And you want to talk about on the ground? I was there while your party voted down border funding that endangered thousands." The air froze, even the host blinked. Crockett, rattled for the first time, pushed forward. "I've introduced bills to raise minimum wage, to protect unions, to fix health care. What have you passed besides talking points?" Levit didn't blink. "We passed hope, results, and a vision. Your policies are written for donors. Mine? For Americans left behind by your sound bites." Reynolds looked to the camera. "We have more after the break, but make no mistake, this isn't just a debate. It's a war, and it's only just begun. The cameras were rolling. The audience had forgotten to blink. From MAGA hats to progressive pins, every side was gripping their seat like spectators at a gladiator match. Morgan Reynolds tried to reclaim control. Let's steer this to foreign policy. No, Crockett snapped. Let's talk about women. Caroline, as a woman, how do you stand beside a man who called women nasty, mocked survivors, and paid hush money to porn stars? A hushed gasp swirled across the studio. Levitt turned her head slowly toward Crockett, then smiled. The kind of smile you wear before drawing a dagger. Congresswoman, as a woman, I'm not defined by sound bites. I stand beside a president who made me the youngest press secretary in U.S. history. He elevated my voice, while your party parades women on stage and then ignores their ideas. Crockett leaned forward. You were elevated to repeat orders, not lead. That's not empowerment. That's compliance. You confuse compliance with loyalty, Levitt shot back, and you confuse rebellion with relevance. That line hit. The crowd erupted. MAGA chants surged like tidal waves. Progressive supporters jeered back. The studio now vibrated with chaos. Reynolds tried again. Ladies, I'm not finished, Crockett hissed. She turned, eyes blazing. You defend a man under investigation in 4 states, who tried to overturn an election, who praised dictators while demonizing immigrants. That's your president? Levitt's answer was a bullet. That's my president, the one who cut taxes for small businesses, who brought back 10,000 jobs to Pennsylvania steel mills, the one who secured the border while you waved in chaos. Crockett's laugh was sharp. Your border policies caged children and tore families apart. Wrong, Levitt replied coldly. Obama's policies built those cages. We just got blamed for turning the lights on. Cheers, boos, screams. Even Morgan Reynolds looked stunned. I've been in immigrant shelters, Crockett said, her voice trembling with rage. You've been behind a podium, and yet you've done less with more, Levitt replied flatly. You're in Congress, and still the communities you claim to fight for are sinking. Maybe it's not Trump. Maybe it's you. The audience roared. Several stood. Phones recorded like it was history. Reynolds shouted, This is live television. Please respect the... But the clash only escalated. You want to talk respect? Crockett barked. Respect is fighting for people who don't look like you, who don't pray like you. You stand for exclusion, division, arrogance wrapped in a pink blazer. Levitt didn't blink. You talk inclusion, but you exclude every voice that doesn't agree with you. You say you fight for justice, but when did you last visit a steel mill, a border town, a police widow? Crockett's jaw tightened. Levitt stepped forward slightly, commanding the room. I met a mother in Arizona last week. Her son died from fentanyl brought through an open border you refused to secure. She asked me one thing, will they listen? And I told her, yes, I will. A dead silence blanketed the studio. Crockett's face twitched, not with weakness, but with restrained fury. I've spoken to families, she said, her voice quieter, but taut with fire, who can't afford insulin, whose homes were flooded while your president tweets about windmills. You talk pain. I live it. Levitt replied, steel in her voice. Then stop tweeting it and do something. Reynolds jumped in, breathless. We have to go to break. Crockett staring daggers. This isn't over. Levitt, calm and lethal. No, for you, it's just beginning. As the studio cut to commercial, the camera stayed just a moment longer. 2 women, one burning, one frozen steel, both refusing to break. America watched, unable to look away. Backstage, staffers buzzed like hornets. Producers scrambled to contain the digital wildfire already consuming X and TikTok. Phones were lighting up with notifications. Caroline Levit, Jasmine Crockett, and Washington's Showdown had already begun trending, and not quietly. Inside the studio, the silence was louder than any cheer. Caroline sat tall, legs crossed, blazer unwrinkled, as if nothing had touched her. Jasmine rubbed her temples, steadying her breath. Her last lines had faltered, her rhythm shaken. Morgan Reynolds returned from the break, looking visibly rattled. We're back, and well, so is the heat, she half laughed. Let's talk about media responsibility. Both of you use platforms like X and TikTok, but are you amplifying truth or division? Crockett took the opening. Truth, she said firmly, isn't a trend. It's accountability. I use my platform to speak for the silenced. While Caroline goes viral for defending tax cuts for the rich and photo ops with steelworkers, I fight for minimum wage, paid leave, and health care. Caroline tilted her head, unimpressed. You mean you tweet hashtags and hope it counts as action? MAGA cheers rang out. Crockett fired back. You dress up chaos as leadership. You're the polished face of a man who's on trial more than he's on policy. Levit's voice was ice. And you're the tired voice of a party that hasn't innovated since the Clinton era. Cheers, again? Even Reynolds looked momentarily stunned. Crockett's voice sharpened. I speak for people who can't afford rent. You defend a billionaire who golfs while hospitals close. And yet, under your party's policies, Levit said calmly, rent exploded, crime spiked, and our border turned into a revolving door. Maybe it's not about Trump. Maybe it's about you failing at your job. The audience now was a battlefield. Boos and cheers collided like waves. Some stood, others shouted. Camera crews could barely hold the frame steady. Reynolds raised her voice. Let's finish with this. What does leadership look like today? Not as a party member, but as a woman. Crockett exhaled. Leadership, she said, voice slightly cracked, is standing up when it's hard. It's calling out injustice even when it's unpopular. It's knowing that policies affect real people. It's empathy, not applause. There was light applause, but muted. Then Caroline spoke. Leadership is showing up prepared. It's walking into fire and not blinking. It's defending those who feel forgotten. It's not tweeting rage from an office. It's making hard decisions under pressure. That's not applause, that's purpose. A pause, then a thunderclap of applause erupted. MAGA supporters stood. Progressive viewers, conflicted, stayed seated. But all of them stared. Caroline stood, raised her hand gently. The crowd exploded louder. Crockett didn't move. Her jaw clenched. Her eyes glazed, but only for a second. Then she reached for her mic, unhooked it, and walked off stage. The camera didn't follow her. It stayed on Levit, young, composed, immovable. Reynolds stunned. I guess that concludes tonight's episode. Thank you all for joining us for a truly unforgettable night.